Welcome back to Plot Twist, my new Excel chart series, where we get creative and transform boring data into stunning visualizations. In today's episode, we'll learn how to gauge data by creating a gauge chart in Excel. Let's dive in. A gauge chart is similar to a half circle chart, but it contains a ticker that shows where a data point falls within a range, similar to a speedometer. You can also use color schemes within a gauge chart to show whether the data point is below average, average, or above average. For example, here we have our customer satisfaction KPI score and want to visualize it with a gauge chart. We also know that if the score falls between 0 and 25%, it's considered poor. If it falls between 25 and 75%, it's considered average. And lastly, if it's greater than 75%, it's considered good. This information will determine how many sections are in our gauge chart and what color we need to make them. Before we create the chart, we need to set up our data. First, we need to create a data table that contains the ranges for the gauge chart. The first value in the data table is going to be the minimum value, which in this case is 0%. The following values are going to represent the ranges in the gauge chart. So for each value, we need to enter the total distance of the range. So for poor, we'll enter 25% because it ranges from 0 to 25%. For average, we'll enter 50% because it ranges from 25 to 75%. And lastly, we'll enter 25% for good because it ranges from 75 to 100%. The final value we need to include in the table is the maximum value, which is 100%. Now that we have our ranges for the gauge chart, we need to add two more values underneath the customer service score that will be used to create the ticker. First, we'll enter a thickness value, which defines how thick the ticker will be in the gauge chart. I'm going to enter 3% for now, but you can always adjust this later. Finally, we need to calculate the total amount left over so that the ticker is proportionate with our data ranges in the chart. To calculate the remainder, all you have to do is sum up the values in the ranges table and then subtract the sum of the customer satisfaction score and the thickness value. Okay, now that we have our data set up, it's time for the fun part, creating the gauge chart. To create a gauge chart, select the first data table that contains our range values, navigate to the Insert tab, open the pie or donut chart dropdown, and select a donut chart. Next, I like to clean up the chart a little bit by deleting the chart title and the legend by selecting each value in the chart and pressing the delete key. I also like to remove the chart's border to give it an embedded look in the spreadsheet by navigating to the Format tab, opening the Shape Outline dropdown, and selecting No Outline. Okay, now that we've set up the base for our gauge chart, let's format the data series. Start by right-clicking the donut chart, selecting Format Data Series, and decreasing the donut hole size to 55 to thicken the gauge chart a little bit. Next, set the angle of the first slice to 270 so that our ranges are the top half of the donut chart. Now that our ranges are in the correct position in the chart, we can remove the fill color of the bottom half so that only the top half is visible by selecting the bottom portion, clicking the format icon, and selecting No Fill under the Fill section. Next, we need to update the fill colors for each of our ranges. First, let's update the pour portion to red by right-clicking the pour portion in the donut, opening the fill color dropdown, and selecting red. Next, let's update the average section to yellow by right-clicking the average portion and selecting yellow from the fill color dropdown. Finally, update the good range to green by right-clicking the portion in the chart and selecting green. Last but not least, we need to add our ticker to the gauge chart. To add a ticker to the chart, we need to add a new data series by right-clicking the donut chart, selecting Select Data, and clicking Add under Legend Entries. Name the series ticker, enter all three values from our ticker table as the series values, and hit OK to add the series to the chart. Now that we've added our ticker data, we need to change the series chart type to a pie chart so the ticker starts from the center of the chart. To do this, right-click the data series, select Change Series Chart Type, and then set the ticker series chart type to a pie chart using the dropdown, and check the secondary axis checkbox. Hit OK, and as you can see, this is starting to look a lot more like a ticker. Now we just need to update the formatting to finalize the chart. You know the drill. Right-click the pie chart, select Format Data Series, and set the angle of the first slice equal to 270 so that it's proportionate with the other data series. Last but not least, we need to update the fill color so that only the ticker is visible by selecting the format icon and choosing No Fill under the Fill section to remove all fill color. Last but not least, fill the ticker portion any color you'd like by right-clicking just the ticker portion in the chart, opening the fill color dropdown, and selecting any color. Much better. Don't forget you can also adjust the thickness of the ticker in your chart by updating the thickness percentage value we set up in the beginning. Once your ticker is finalized, your gauge chart is ready to go. Well, that's the gauge of it. Now you can go impress all of your coworkers with your new gauge chart. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of Plot Twist.